champion! Champions of Europe finally! History made in Istanbul! The treble complete! The greatest story in club history has an ending! And what a final chapter!
Hello and welcome back to Typical City. 3 points is all that matters. How we did it isn't as important. I do think it is important, but it wasn't that what was needed today. We just needed 3 points. We needed them, we got them, and we can celebrate them. And it was in a lose-lose situation for City fans today, because if we win the game, we would get 0 credit. No one's going to come to us and go, well done for beating Luton, Manchester City. Well done. No one's going to do that. No one's going to do that. So we had to accept that. But what they were waiting for, those same people that were never going to do that, they were waiting in the wings, they were gun in the holster, ready to start firing shots at Manchester City again if we dropped more points, and they're well within their rights. And I mean, thank God we didn't, because it was starting to look like at the end of that game when we were sort of hanging on a little bit, some crosses coming in corners, some long throw-ins, and dealing with it is what mattered at the end of the day. Game management. And I think Pep Guardiola deserves a pat on the back for bringing on Akanji, bringing on Stones in the second half, bringing on Nunes, for Kovacic, who I thought was brilliant. But I think we need to start with Bernardo Silva. I don't know what we are going to do without him. We all talk about Kevin De Bruyne this season because he's the most recent absent player. Obviously, we talk about missing Mahrez and Gundogan. Those two in particular get brought up as a why City aren't doing as well, but we're going to be having the same conversations next season because it's very likely that Bernardo Silva will be leaving. With that release clause that's in his contract, it sounds too low for it to not have already been agreed that he's on his way out, and Manchester City have got a plan to let him go for a very reasonable fee, which is a real shame, but we can't pretend that this guy's not been a legend for Manchester City. Some of the stuff that this guy does, I think he's one of the best players in the world right now, Bernardo Silva. I really think he's that good. You know, and I don't hear it enough. I don't hear people putting him in their top 5s for anything. You know, I really don't understand why Bernardo Silva isn't looked at as one of the greatest in the world right now. He's sensational. He does everything you want a midfielder to do. Forget that unbelievable finish, the fact that he whipped it into the bottom corner with an instinctual, lethal finish that gave Kaminsky no chance, who was having the game of his life, by the way, saving everything that was being fired at him. Good goalkeeping performance from him, but nothing he could have done about that Bernardo Silva finish. But his ability to drop deep and collect the ball from the back 4 was fantastic, in particular in that second half. Bernardo Silva was getting back and tackling, winning the balls in dangerous positions that were in Luton's favour and winning it back. And doing some fantastic things defensively, but going forward, he was brilliant. My one major criticism was that ball in the first 5 minutes to Phil Foden when we were in on goal. Bernardo's pass to Phil Foden there was overhit, and Phil Foden couldn't get it under his control, and it could have been 1-0 within 5 minutes, and we're laughing to the bank then at that point, because if we get an early goal against Luton, I feel like we'd go from strength to strength from that point on. But it wasn't to be, and it was going to be one of those days where it was just looking at the clock going by, and it was like, 44 minutes into the game and it's still 0-0, and then 45 minutes into the game and it's 1-0 to Luton. Where did that come from? We have got to cut this out. We've got to cut this ability to concede out of nowhere, clean out of our game, because right now it's a massive problem for Manchester City. It's a massive problem that we have this ability to just dominate for 20, 25 minutes, even half an hour. In this case, 44 minutes. And dictate the play and let them do nothing. We talk about against the run of play. I mean, there was no way Luton should have been scoring in that first half. But for them to get one cross and it ends up in the back of the net with a big booming header from Adebayo. I haven't looked at the goal back properly. I'll do a much more in-depth look at the game after this. There are question marks that it was highlighted in the chat during the watch-along that Ederson should have come out for that. Looking at where he headed the ball, he was very close to the touchline, wasn't he? Too close to that back post, heading it in. Ruben Diaz, he did the best he could. Adebayo's a fucking monster. He's a beast of a player, isn't he? Such a big guy. He was always going to win that ball. So maybe I'll look back at it again, but maybe Ederson could have come out and claimed that. Should Gvardiol be blocking the cross or attempting to block the cross better than he did? Maybe. But yeah, going 1-0 down in situations like this is so frustrating. But for once, we're the other team that's flipping the game on its head. Because how many times have we taken the lead this season, and the game suddenly either become a draw or we lose and from a leading position? And thankfully, they took the lead and we win the game this time. So the whole season seems to be so topsy-turvy with regards to, it doesn't matter who scores first. That saying, first goal wins, is going to win the game. It's not apparent this season at all, because so many games are being turned around, and here's another one. But you can't say we didn't deserve it. You know what I mean? We dominated that game. I thought the first half, there was these pockets of space that were being found by Kovacic, who I thought was sensational today. Sensational, Kovacic. I thought he was brilliant. Coming off, when he subbed off, I'm presuming it was for energy levels, but there has been huge doubts about Kovacic. I myself was included in someone who had those doubts prior to the game. And when the team news came out, Kovacic in the starting 11, I thought, okay, let's see how it pans out. Give him time. Hopefully he can prove why we signed Kovacic. And today he did that. He absolutely proved why we signed him. Is he Gundogan? Probably not. Who is? Gundogan's Gundogan. I mean, maybe not ever to the levels of Gundogan, but let's see where we are at the end of the season and talking about Kovacic and what his role can be in this Manchester City side and the importance that he might have going forward, because today it was against Luton, so you expect him to be have a bit more of a better game against lesser opposition. The midfield wasn't quite as tenacious. For example, the Aston Villa midfield was horrible going up against it. It was such a horrible midfield to play against. Whereas today I thought it was an okay team to go up against and try and get back to winning ways. But he found those pockets of space, Kovacic. Bernardo Silva and Phil Foden were interconnectivity between the two of them, and they were interchanging in their positions and just floating around. Bernardo Silva on paper probably started the game as a right winger, but he inverted. Someone's got to invert with a Pep system. Somewhere on the pitch, someone has to invert, whether it's a defender pushing into defensive midfield, a fullback like Cancelo or Zinchenko, or a winger. We've seen Foden do it a lot this season, tucking in from the right side to allow Kyle Walker on the overlap. Bernardo Silva tended to do it today, but he sort of stayed there, and I didn't want to see Kyle Walker getting forward. I don't like Kyle Walker getting forward. I'm not a fan of it. It doesn't suit his game, and he's not got the ability to whip a crossing. You know, and his ability with the triangles isn't good enough for me. Defending, Kyle Walker's second to none. No one gets past Kyle Walker. But I think keeping him away from the attack was good for City today. And the amount of space that Bernardo Silva and Phil Foden found in that first half, they just did not punish them. I mean, I thought Bernardo Silva, I've put it in the title that he had a masterclass. Might be a slight over-exaggeration in terms of that first half, because there were times that he could have done more, but that second half, Bernardo Silva was sensational. Absolutely incredible. The first half, his movement was brilliant. I just think he just lacked that little decision-making. That final pass was a little bit off in the first half, potentially, because he was being found by Kovacic and sometimes Rodri, sometimes Ake, who was firing in balls. But the amount of space that Phil Foden and Bernardo Silva together were generating, and sometimes Jack Grealish was getting involved, and we were seeing like a little circulation of players with Foden and Bernardo Silva and Jack Grealish just rotating in that pocket in front of Luton's defence and behind their midfield. And it was very easy to find that space, and we didn't punish them enough in the first half, because there were so many times they received the ball, they turned, and it was almost like, oh, look how much space I've got. Look at this. Hey. And they didn't do the right thing with it. It was almost like they were surprised the amount of space that Luton were giving them in the middle of the park. And we didn't kill them. We did not hurt them enough with that amount of space. It was evident from the very get-go. As soon as Bernardo Silva gets the ball and he feeds it to Phil Foden, that was another example of just that little extra pizzazz just missing from our game. Lack of confidence. The fact that we've gone 4 games without a win. It was evident in our performance today that was just a little bit of jangling nerves in the way we played in the first half. And it was like a 1-0 down frustration. And the way we celebrated at the end, that was like getting the monkey off the back. You know what I mean? It was like, oh, yes, done. Won. Finally, back to winning ways. Didn't matter how. Edison booting the ball out of Kenilworth Road. Just pure frustration. Just letting it all out. Yes, back to winning ways. In a game that we completely dominated, fully deserved to win. And yet we're looking at a 2-1 game like it was a close game. It wasn't a close game. And I don't think it was a close game with Arsenal and Luton. I thought Arsenal battered them. And it came away with a 4-3. And that's down to individual errors. we talk about individual errors from a City perspective. You've seen the damage that individual errors can do to Arsenal. They conceded 3 goals from 2 David Raya mistakes. Individual errors are not something to be ignored and pretend it, let's all talk about it tactically and analyse the game from a tactical perspective. You can't always do that. Sometimes a single individual making an error can decide how a game pans out. And Arsenal were made to look like they were in a close game. But statistically, through the way the game played, I thought Arsenal were by far the better team against Luton. And they showed that by scoring 4 goals, but they conceded 3 sloppy goals, 2 from big mistakes. So they've shown to City that mistakes can hurt you. And again, City have been on the receiving end of some big individual errors from our defensive players, Gvardiol at Chelsea, Ruben Diaz against RB Leipzig, Akanji against RB Leipzig. So many mistakes from Manchester City players that have cost us. But today, I thought the midfield looked good. I'm really pleased with Kovacic mostly, but just been ignoring the chat. Sorry about that. Letty, good to see you. Getting some treble emojis in there. Hayden, love that commentary on the treble win. Big M, don't care what the media says, just ignore it these days. Plus, Chelsea lost again. They lost, honestly, Chelsea, man. I can't believe they drew 4-4 with us. I can't believe it. Like, what? What is that? Section 20, happy City fans. Sleepy Son, I'm kind of disappointed Calvin doesn't play even just a bit. You know what? I kind of agree with you a little bit. I do feel for the guy, but I mean, that's done, isn't it? Calvin Phillips is done. There's no way he's going to be a City player. I'll be very surprised if we get through the January transfer market and Calvin Phillips is still a City player. Obviously, business needs to make sense for it to work. It's not just footballing decisions. Business needs to make sense. Financially, it needs to make sense for both parties. Do we want to be loaning him out? Absolutely not. I think we don't want to be paying his wages while he doesn't play for us. We might as well keep him. You know, I mean, just on the off chance, we really do need him. But ultimately, I thought there is no real need for Calvin Phillips. When Kovacic puts in performances like that, like today, I know it was against Luton, but we've got to give credit where credit's due as City fans, because I know I'm definitely one of them that thought his first 6 games of the season, Kovacic was really, really good. The last 6-7 games or so, he's been so sloppy and just very ineffective. Injuries have played a part, so he hasn't really had that run of games to prove himself and get a nice platform of performances to build on. He hasn't had that opportunity because he has been injured, so that's in his favour. But what's not in his favour is coming on against Villa and just being totally anonymous. He's made a couple of substitute appearances. I'm pretty sure he came on against Liverpool and was a little bit sloppy. Spurs, I'm sure he came on and was sloppy. Today started the game and he looked brilliant. I thought he looked really, really good. Wasn't too much asked of him defensively, but his ability on the ball, he looked composed. He was brave. That's the key word for him today. He was brave with his pass. We're talking about a channel that big, finding a pass through a gap that big. Bang, right through it, perfect, into the feet of Phil Foden and Bernardo Silva on so many occasions. And we didn't make the most of it. I mean, I loved his run in that second half. Right before he was substituted as well, he did a little link-up play with Bernardo Silva and lucky to not get on the end of it. But we can't underestimate Luton's physicality as well today, and we matched them for that. And it was good to see. I thought we got done on their goal from Adebayo's big booming header. But I mean, you talk about physicality, that guy's absolutely massive. But Rodri in the park, he was putting in some crunching tackles. Phil Foden, that was a red card all day long. How is Jacob Brown? And that's another example of just not getting the rub of the green, City fans, right now. City as a club, we're just not getting those decisions. You know, we had to scrape our way through this game. But in reality, if the letter of the law was upheld in what is 9 times out of 10 this season, has been a red card when it's a studs that high up, so close to the knee, 2/3 of the way up the calf, on Phil Foden, it's a red card. Why is it not today, but it was last week? And why is it probably going to be a red card next week, but not today? And I said in the watch-along that it's like, not a conspiracy, but it's like, it feels like it's evening it up, because I swear Liverpool and Arsenal seem to be getting a lot of decisions at the minute. Liverpool and VAR yesterday, for example. I mean, the penalty. The red card it was never a second yellow card. He had a man around him. Ayew getting sent off. And Liverpool score immediately after going back to 10 men. It completely flipped the game on its head. One decision like that. And one decision like this today with Phil Foden would have seen City go on 3-4. You know, City against 10 men. When's the last time we played against 10 men? I can't remember. Because the way we play, it's hard enough with 11. to get the ball off us. You know, you play with 10 men against City. It's a good night nurse, really. It's good night nurse. Your game over because we will just pass you to death. And Luton stood no chance with 10 men. And it would have been game over. It would have been game over. And it's just frustrating. It really is frustrating. Mark B saying corrupt. I mean, part of me thinks that, but I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true. I like to think not. I think maybe deep down some of these referees like the idea of an entertaining season. Maybe. Disappointing. Prince Hams, what's happened to Haaland? Stress fracture. All day I've struggled. Everyone who's asked me that, I was like, stop asking me that question, because I can't say the word stress fracture without sounding like a moron. Stress fracture, it was, yeah. So I don't know. 2 weeks, maybe 4, is the opinion of the average duration of a stress fracture injury. So hopefully he'll be back in January. But I mean, if you look at the fixtures, we're going to miss him for the Club World Cup potentially. It could be just a couple of weeks. He could make it back. Club World Cup is, 19th of December, I'm pretty sure it starts. Correct me if I'm wrong. But I feel like that's a couple of weeks away. So we might be able to get away. We've got Palace. We've got Red Star midweek. Come and join me for the watch-along on that one. It's going to be a nice chilled one, that, because done and dusted. Come and get to know me. Let's have a bit more of a casual chat, because today there was nothing casual about the watch along today. I was on edge, mate. I was on absolute edge, because I mean we needed that today. We needed those 3 points. But the Red Star game midweek is going to be nice and chill. Hopefully we could play a few kids. Maybe. I'm not sure Pep will, to be honest, because of the whole UEFA points coefficiency ranking. It matters where we are in that ranking, and losing a game in the group stages knocks you down. So Pep will still want to win regardless. He'll still want to win regardless, but it's going to be an interesting couple of weeks for life without Haaland, and how Alvarez is now going to be implemented into this team as a centre forward that can drop deep. We're probably going back to a little bit more of a false 9. We saw straight away the defence changed today and went to a more of a traditional back 4. Because Haaland wasn't playing. I did my video midweek questioning whether Haaland should be dropped to gain more control. It was certainly a question, not a statement. I don't think Haaland should be dropped. I would prefer to have a goal machine up front for us, and having to accommodate for him and compensate elsewhere on the pitch tactically. I would prefer that. But we've seen the compensation for Manchester City has not been very good. Our idea for moving players around to allow Haaland to be Haaland, if that makes sense. To not ask him to drop deep and play as a false 9 and come and collect the ball. He needs to add that to his game. We shouldn't excuse Haaland from doing that, but he still could offer more as a focal point, as someone who can wait for the end of the move and be at the end of every move to finish it off. And we therefore have to move players around in midfield to get what Pep wants in midfield, which tends to be a box in midfield and numerical advantage in midfield. Now we've got the option to drop Alvarez, and I think that's what he did today. Today he inverted Bernardo Silva a little bit, which I think it worked really well. They could not cope with Bernardo Silva and Phil Foden. And a quick mention for Jack Grealish as well, who didn't have his greatest performance, but he's coming away with a goal. And what a massively important goal that was. A little bit fortunate that it ends up going through the legs of Kaminsky, but you give him credit, man. Right place, right time, goal. And you know, Jack Grealish has not exactly been... Oh my God, Newcastle just missed an open net. It's just got Newcastle Spurs in front of me. But I would carry on this and just do a little sneaky little watch along now, but I've got to go and... I'm going to go and see my sister, who I haven't seen for nearly a year, so I'm very much looking forward to seeing her. Otherwise, I'd do a little watch along now and change the video title into Newcastle. And I can't do that, can I? But anyway, ultimately, I don't think we need to panic too much, City fans. Now we've seen that City have the bite back. The fight and determination was definitely there today, and accusations of complacency and not caring for Manchester City were handed out by content creators, pundits, and various forms of media. Were all saying the word complacent and not enough effort. And I think that's wrong, infinitely wrong. I thought they definitely tried against Villa, just shoddy and outplayed by Villa. Today, the complacency can absolutely not be brought into question. The effort was 100% there, in particular from players like Kovacic. Rodri was everywhere, man. He was fighting for everything, Rodri. And Kovacic, Bernardo Silva, Phil Foden and Jack Grealish had mixed games, I thought. Good at times, sloppy in others. I thought Phil Foden's first half was really good. Second half, he was a little bit sloppy here and there, but still, never once questioned his attitude. He was everywhere. He lost the ball at one moment with a sloppy touch on Ross Barkley, but he gets back and he's slide tackling in on Ross Barkley and just getting a toe on it. And beautiful from Phil Foden. Beautiful, exactly what we needed. That attitude is what I'm talking about, to get back with tenacity and get that ball back. Even though he'd made a mistake, he wins it back. So you can't question effort. So I was really pleased with that today. And I'm really pleased with the 3 points as well, because, I mean, that's all we really needed. I wanted to see a little bit more of a convincing performance. I felt like I got what I wanted from today, from City, in the sense of a controlling performance that was high in possession, reasonably high in chance creation, and a win. And I got all 3 of those today. We did control the game. We're never going to get credit for it because it's Luton. And we did create chances. Again, not going to get credit for it because it's Luton. And we won. Again, not going to get credit for it because it's Luton. But you only can beat what's put in front of you. That old chestnut. It's true, though. It's very, very true. And now we've got Palace at home next, which is a really tough fixture that we've struggled with in the past. And that's another potential statement performance. I can't remember if we play first or not against Crystal Palace going up into the next set of fixtures in the Premier League, because who plays first does play a part, and we do play first. Arsenal and Liverpool both play on Sunday. City play Saturday, 3 o'clock against Crystal Palace. I'll be doing a watch along for that, so join me for that one. But once again, we can go ahead of Arsenal before they play Brighton. And we can go 1 point behind Liverpool before they play United. So pressure is on them all of a sudden. The vital importance of that, especially because following week we've got to go away to the Club World Cup, haven't we? So if we can claw back an even smaller gap and come back from the Club World Cup with a 6-point deficit with a game in hand, or even a 7 or 8, I'd take 9, I think, with a game in hand. I'd take 9 points behind with a game in hand, because I still think City can do it at that point. You start talking about 12 or 13 points behind, even with a game in hand, the league table would look so ugly and the pressure cooker would be ramped up big time. And the whole idea of City in the second half of the season, even though I fully believe we're going to go on and be better in the second half of the season, we can't rely on that. We can't completely depend on just being good in the second half of the season without putting in the performances to deserve the results. And right now I think we are. Excluding Villa, I thought we've been putting in performances that deserve more than what we've been getting. And today we got the bare minimum of what we deserved. In a 2-1 win, it should have been 3 or 4 in reality, with a red card to Luton. But 3 points is all that matters at the end of the day. I've got my player ratings tomorrow. I'll be doing that. Interested to see. I'm looking forward to the stats of Kovacic in particular. Really looking forward to seeing his numbers and the overall score that I'm going to give Kovacic, as well as Bernardo Silva. Interested in Gvardiol as well, because I thought his role today was interesting. He was mixed. Again, a little bit sloppy, but again, like, it was okay. Coming off for John Stones, I think, was the right decision. But yeah, anyway, player ratings tomorrow. Come and join me for that one. Thank you very much for joining me in the match reaction as well, and those that joined me in the watch along. I can see a few of you that were in the watch along as well. It's massive, this 3 points. It really is big. And they won't say it. I'm telling you right now, no one will give us credit for this. But as City fans, we know that not only was the result vital, but there was some good performances in there. Really good performances today. So I'm pleased. Really pleased. Back to winning ways. Can we go on a run now? That's what I want to see. Go on a run. Go and get a Club World Cup. Win that. Come back with a trophy in the cabinet. A new, brand spanking, sizzling, new, sparkling trophy to enjoy. Use that as confidence going into the second half of the season. Wham, bam, get back top of the league and we'll do it again. 4-peat, let's do it. Come on, Blues. Anyway, drop a like on the stream. Please drop a like. We've got 90 in the building, 58 likes. If you could drop a like, it really does help. And I will see you in the next one.